The Bruins make 2 trades with the New York Rangers. Cliffy Hockey coming back to Boston. Ooh, and a show announcement. We're going to talk about all that and more coming up right here on the Maine Hockey Report. And welcome in, everybody. This is the Maine Hockey Report, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me here on this hot and sticky, steamy day here, July 3rd here, Friday, July 3rd. Yeah, if you're any place in the Northeast, U.S. or Canada, it is hot out there. I cannot wait to get into my pool here later today and cool down. But man, oh man, we have got a lot to talk about before we get to all that. Of course, we have gotten by July 1st, and the NHL, as they do, went a little bit bananas, spending, I believe it's over $1 billion between the 32 clubs. Taking a quick look at what the Bees did, and there's been all sorts of reaction on social media, some positive, a lot of negative, because, of course, we're Bruins fans. We can never be really happy, can we? We always have to grumble about something, but real quick, guys, of course, Clifton coming back on a 2-year deal, $2.25 million cap hit. Brendan Gaunce coming in, 2-way deal here for him, 2-year, $875. Brian Hallinan, 2 years, $875. Max Jeanette, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name, 1 year, $850. And then Yuri Patera, 1 year, $850, and those are all 2-way contracts, so really more Providence signings there. Jordan Harris re-signing after not being qualified. He gets a 1 year, $850,000 contract for himself, so he returns to the fold. And of course, the 2 trades that we referenced earlier, of course, Jonas Korpisalo heading over to the New York Rangers for a 4th-round pick, and I'm not going to pronounce this name right, guys. Kalle Vasanen. I probably butchered that. I'm very sorry. And then, of course, the big one, the Will Borgen coming over, defenseman from the Rangers for that 2027 2nd-round pick and 28th conditional 3rd-round pick. So what do we think? Did the Bruins do enough? Are you happy with these signings? Are you happy with these trades? I'm going to say my gut reaction is, yeah, they're okay. They're fine. I think they did a good job not going bananas and spending all the money. Now, we have to remember, they didn't have a ton of money to spend. I think going into the day, they were right around $7.5 million. So I love the Korpisalo deal. You get a 4th-round pick, you get a player, and you dump, I think, about $3 million in that transaction. So that opened up some money so you could go out and get a Will Borgen, so you could go out and sign a Clifton. Yeah, there were other names on that list, and we're going to go through some other notable signings here in a moment. But, of course, I love Clifton. I always have. He is not a roster-changing guy necessarily. What I mean by that is he's not someone that's going to take us to a Stanley Cup on his back, right? But he's a very good middle, pairing defenseman who plays hard despite his size. He has a physical edge to himself and obviously knows the city, knows the team really well. And again, just always one of those fan favorites. So happy to get him back into the fold. Nice to see him back here. He's obviously going to be welcomed big time by the fans. For Will Borgen, I would say inconsistent play, based on his size and some of his attributes and things like that. Now let's take a look at him right here. 6'3", 205, plays on the right side. And again, that's what the Bruins needed. They needed some right side defensive help here. Of course, he goes back to 2015 when he was a 4th-round pick of the Buffalo Sabres. Last year, 75 games, 5 goals, 10 assists, 41 penalty minutes. Talking to some of my Ranger buddies, they're like, yeah, he's a good player, but a little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent. The cap hit is $4.1 million. He's got 4 years left on that deal, so you do have some control here. Prices were going sky high on some of these guys, so I think for a good middle 6 guy that you need on the right side, 4.1 under this cap structure, I'm okay with that. The real question is going to be, can he become a more consistent player night in and night out? That's what the Bruins are going to need. Can Marco Sturm and this coaching staff pull more out of him? Let's hope so. But I like the move. Maybe I don't love the move, but I like it. Could we have gone out and spent bigger on some of those free agents? Yeah, we could have. But instead of going out and getting a Carlson or a Rasmus Anderson or someone like that, you're able to go out and get two guys. Yes, you had to give up a little draft capital to do it. And I understand some people, why are you giving up more picks? We're trying to collect, assets. But I think in a year where the free agent pool wasn't huge, you knew the money was going to be off the charts, which it was this year, as it tends to be, right? These teams just can't help themselves. I think that the Bruins did a pretty good job of controlling their assets, or utilizing their assets to go out and get players that they actually need. I look at this team today and I think they're improved from a year ago. I don't know if they're going to be, a number 2 or number 3 in the division. They might still be in that kind of wild card mix. That's probably where I put them right now. But I do think they have improved. I think moving off Korpisalo, that obviously opens the door for Michael DiPietro, which I think we all feel like, he needs that opportunity. And that's what Sweeney said, that after those 2 really good years down in Providence, you're not going to know until you give him a chance, until you get him up here. And there's going to be all sorts of dominoes that are going to fall into place now with the Bruins and their goalie room. And that leads us to another player we haven't quite talked about yet, Luke Cavallin, goalie here for the Maine Mariners and the Providence Bruins, re-signing $850,000 for 1 year. Obviously, with Korpisalo on the move, DiPietro going up, Cavalin's going to have a wonderful shot to become a regular player there in Providence. I do think he's earned that right and earned that opportunity. A lot of goalies in the room, so we'll see how it all shakes out. Does he end up back in Maine at some point next year? Maybe. We'll see. But he was a treat to watch all year here in Maine, and good to see him potentially getting a chance to become more of a regular player there in Providence. So looking at the Bruins right now, guys, they have, $5.39 million of cap space right now. So they still have a little bit of money to play with. Their roster's pretty full. So it does lead us to think, what else? What else is coming here for the Bees? Are they done? Are they all set with what they have? I mean, right now, looking at Puckpedia, you've got a top line, and the way they have it listed, and you can mix these lines up any way you want, right? Lindholm with Pasta and Peterka, Zaka, Geeky, Middlestad, Minton, Hustinov, and Higgins with Corrali, Kastelik, and Jeannot, McAvoy, Lohrei, Lindholm, Borgen, Zadorov. They have Yuki Haru there. Of course, you could sub in Connor Clifton. I do think they're going to continue to try to make some other moves here. I think there's some cap casualties that could happen. I look at Yuki Haru there at $3 million. Do you try to move that off? Again, you got to remember, not a lot of free agents out there. Prices are high. Yuki Haru's at $3 million with another year left. Is that a valuable contract for another team if they're looking for another third pairing D-man? What about Mason Lohrei? A lot of chatter about him. I think there was a lot of interest in him. Do they try to move off of him? He's 25 years old. He's at the end of his 2-year deal, $3.2 million. He just hasn't developed quite as far as we all think he could. We'll see what this year brings, if you can utilize him and get another asset in here. Something like that's going to happen. There's been some talk about Sean Corrali maybe being on the move. Could you move off of that AC-Mon contract, 1.45? And there's some smaller moves out there that the Bees could make. If you're looking for them to make a huge splash, I will be surprised if that happens. I just will. I'd love to see it. We still have a lot of big names out there right now. Dylan Larkin and Jason Robertson being the 2 most notable. I don't think they're in on either one of those guys. I just don't think they are. I think the price tag would be so high. I would love a Larkin here. I think he would be really great for our center depth. That's exactly probably what we're missing right now, is one more really good center. Are you willing to pay that price? A couple first-round draft picks. They might be asking for something like a Minton or a Higgins, in return. I'm not giving either one of those guys up, at least not right now. So, I think there's going to be some other moves, maybe some other players being traded off, but I'm not fully expecting any sort of big splash. I think they've done enough to improve those defensive pairings, which they needed to do. I love the JJ Peterka deals I talked about earlier on. And I think this should be another competitive team that's playing in a very, very tough division that should be fighting for number 3, maybe a wild card spot, and could find themselves right back where they were a year ago, which in a year like this isn't a bad thing. You got the first year with Higgins, you've got Minton and Hustadinov, these younger players kind of starting to come up. Dean Letourneau, we might see him in the spring after the next college year ends. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. There's going to be more money and more free agents next year. So I think this is another one of those tweener years where you give Sturm this year to continue to build the foundation a little bit, organic improvements on the roster. It all comes down to this, a best-of-7 battle, and DraftKings has you covered every step of the way. The DraftKings Sports app is now available in all 50 states and includes all markets. Sweat every shift of the series all in one place with one app. New DraftKings customers sign up with code THPN, spend $5 to get $200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code THPN in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
With DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. That text pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Void in Ontario. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Sportsbook bonus bets expire in 7 days. $50 in predictions dollars issued weekly for 3 weeks expire in 1 year. Redeem one non-withdrawable reward. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Ends June 28. Terms at dkng.co/audio.
I think going into 2028, that's going to be a year where you, depending on the roster construction and what they can do through trades and some other, maybe landing another big free agent, that might be a year where you look at, all right, we have a legit shot maybe to go on a run. We'll see. We will see. Other moves around the league, of course, some players that Boston seem to be on. John Carlson, 2 times 8.5 from Tampa. Of course, his rights were traded to Carolina from Anaheim. Not able to get it done there in Carolina, so he's off to Tampa. Anders Lee, captain of the Islanders, off to Utah, 3 times 5.4 million. One that stood out to me, AJ Greer, former Bruin. AJ Greer getting paid by Anaheim, 4 years, 4.25 million per. Well done, AJ. Good job. I don't think you're worth that at all, but good on you for getting paid. That's great. Rasmus Andersson, 7 times 8.5 from Vegas. I am so thankful that the Bruins didn't pay that price. It's not that I don't like the player. I just, that's a big contract, and I really don't think he's worth that kind of money either. I actually like more of what they did for some cheaper prices with, Borgen and with Clifton. Victor Arvidsson, former Bruin, off to Detroit. This one a little bit surprising as well. 2 times 5 million. I thought he would get more. I thought he'd get more term at least. It's around the same offer that the Boston Bruins made, but clearly he wanted to go elsewhere. I think after the Peterka deal happened, it was kind of writing on the wall. Trouba going to San Jose, 4 times 8.25. Another player that Boston was kind of kicking the tires on. Sergei Bobrovsky, goaltender, leaving Florida, heading up to Toronto. 3 years times $7 million. So the net looking pretty darn secure there in Toronto. Mason Marchment, 5 years times 6.75. He's off to the San Jose Sharks. Boone Jenner leaving Columbus for Washington, 4 years, 5.75 million. I'm not going to go over all the other kind of major trades, but one trade that did happen with San Jose and Edmonton was Darnell Nurse, defenseman, going over to San Jose. Boston seemed to be really heavy in on conversations there to try to get him. All sorts of social media talk about a certain Bruin player that did not waive his no trade or no movement clause, and the trade doesn't happen. Again, thank you, because Darnell Nurse, I don't want him any place close to my team. I always have felt like he should be a forward anyway. I don't think he's consistent enough defensively with some of those details. Good offensive player. Just, again, quite a bit up and down, and he's got a big number. I want to say, I don't have in front of me, 8 or 9 million a year for Darnell. So he's off to San Jose. They spent some money, the Sharks did, and they're going to be an exciting team to watch as we go into next year. So notable free agents left. There is... there's some guys still. It's a little bit slim pickings, I would say. The one name here right off the top, Anthony Mantha from Pittsburgh. He had a really strong year, 33 goals, 31 assists, 64 points. Had a cap at a 2.5 million a year ago. A little bit surprised that he hasn't been picked up yet. Patty Kane's still out there. Claude Giroux's out there. Marcus Johansson, Vladimir Tarasenko. Of course, Kopitar, he's retired. We know that. Eli Tolvanen from Seattle. He's one that I've always kind of liked. He had 36 points a year ago. Could be a good depth forward for you. See, he was a 3.475 there with Seattle. Michael Bunting's out there. James Van Riemsdyk, old friend. You wonder if Detroit's moving off of him. Now they have Victor Arvidsson in the fold. David Perron, John Klingberg, I should say. Riley Smith out there. Logan Stanley. It's the other names. Ben Hutton, former Maine Black Bear. He's available. He's a left shot D there. Played out in Vegas. Adam Henrique. Of course, Andrew Peeke. Another player that I don't think is obviously going to be returning now with all the other moves that the Bruins made. And that's just it right there, going back to the Bees. I do think they improved the rest. I do think Borgen and Clifton are an upgrade over Andrew Peeke. I liked Andrew early on when he was here last year, just way too inconsistent for my liking. So, yeah, not a lot left, but we'll see. Again, the Bees still have a little bit of money out there. We'll see where some of these guys go. I think that Anthony Mantha's the one that right now is kind of top of the list. Keep an eye on him. Claude Giroux, a lot of talk that maybe he goes back to Philadelphia. Tarasenko, getting older in his career, did have 23 goals a year ago there for Minnesota. He's 34 years old, though. What kind of contract does he get? And then I'm always going to be interested on Tolvanen. And then, another player we didn't mention here, Vander Cain. Of course, out in Vancouver, 31 points a year ago. We'll see where he goes here at the end. So that's where the league sits right now. As we look at the ECHL, guys, been very, very quiet. Very quiet. Just a few transactions so far. South Carolina just announcing yesterday Charlie Combs has been re-signed. Trois Riviere making a few moves, and Orlando making a couple moves themselves. But that's been it for announcements around the league. Do stay tuned next week. The Maine Mariners will have some signings to announce. We will do our very best to get guys on as they re-sign. And before I let you guys go, I do have a show announcement next week. That will be next Friday, July 10th at 4:15. I will be on NHL Network Radio. That's channel 91 on Sirius XM with host of Under Review, Mr. Mick Kern. Mick, one of my absolute favorites on there. I listen to him every day. So I'm going to be on with him just for a short stint. So if you want to come check me out there, that's Friday, July 10th, 4:15, NHL Network Radio, Channel 91. Absolutely looking forward to it. And a big thank you to Mr. Kern for inviting me on. So looking forward to all of that. Guys, thank you as always for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Stay safe. Don't lose any digits with the fireworks. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.